Hey everybody. When we last left off, Tyrone, after discovering the obituary of his friend Tantivy in, I think, the paper, maybe it was a file or something. I think it was. Yeah, it looks like it was an obituary. Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Nick. How did you make me say that? Wow. Yeah, I'm going to be taking your blood today. Oh my god, okay. So, for our phlebotomy practical, you have to, it is a graded part that you have to greet the patient kindly, identify yourself, and then you have to identify them. And there's really specific ways for how you have to identify them. You have to, say, tell me your name. You cannot under any circumstances, assume their name. Be like, hey, are you this person? Hey, I'm looking for this person. Is that you? You have to say, tell me your name, and have them give you their name from scratch. They cannot just be agreeing with you. And people were just fucking around. I really got kicked out of nursing school for not IDing a lady twice. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty serious. They take it pretty seriously because, the reasoning that they gave to me was it looks like my mic is really loud today. Let me know if it needs to be turned down. I'm just looking at the waveform. It looks super loud, but maybe it's not. Yeah, the reason they gave me was they were looking for a reason, TBH, but it was valid. Yeah, the reason they gave me was if a patient is out of it, like a lot of people are in hospitals, if they're just tired or if they are having, impaired mental or if they're on a bunch of drugs, hospital drugs and stuff, they might, if you don't ID them properly, they might just be like, yeah, that's me, whatever, yeah. And they, a lot of people won't to just agree with you and let you take the wrong person's blood. You have to get 2 forms of ID, which they told us to just use name and date of birth, but they have to come up with them on their own so that you can be sure. And you have to introduce yourself. You have to be like, hi, my name is Vlad. I'm going to be tasting your, sucking your, drawing your blood today. And then, of course, I would try to make the other kids laugh when they practiced on me and asked for my name. I would say, Obi Trice, real name, no gimmicks. Ruined his life for a little while. That sucks. But he should have ID'd. I actually know exactly what it's like to get kicked out of that kind of program over what feels like bullshit. Although, ID your patients, though. But still, he's not very pleasant to work with. I think they wanted him out real bad. That would explain why that was the reason they picked. Being not very pleasant to work with feels like a pretty serious deal breaker if you are training to be a nurse, right? People like that get through. People like that get hired all the time. But if there was somebody that that's a job where I feel like being pleasant to work with is it's very important. Yeah, he's not the right temperament. Yeah. Oh, they taught us a list of things not to say during the phlebotomy session. Let's see. Oops. Uh-oh. What is that? Just some basic etiquette. When it came to me, I was extremely nervous just because I don't want to hurt somebody, and I don't want to hurt somebody, basically. I didn't want to do it at all. I was the person who was if it were possible to just draw my own blood for a grade, I would be happy to, because then I would hurt myself and I don't care. And I've definitely had people say oops while taking my blood. They're not supposed to. They're trained not to. They're not supposed to do that. They're explicitly told, do not say oops while taking someone's blood. Yeah, but oh my god. Yeah, when it came to me, it was I had all that in my head. I had gone through it. I had rehearsed it. I had been like, okay, I'm going to be completely calm no matter how bad it goes. I'm going to be, I'm going to not let any of it show on my face if there's a problem, because having the patient have confidence in you is super important as a phlebotomist. Whenever they have a lot of trouble, like they always do because my blood sucks, they're always talking and muttering to themselves. They're like, this fucker and her fucking blood. But when I finally went to do it, which, I got like a 95 out of 100. Most stuff did not go wrong. And still I was like, okay, like super laser focused on not saying any, and like not doing anything to indicate that I didn't have confidence in it. And then I finally got done and I got my grade and I'm like, I need to step away for a second. And I pulled like 3 paper towels and just started cleaning all of the sweat all off of my forehead and my cheeks and all around my face. I was like, oh my God, it was very, very stressful inserting a needle into another human being. Again, if I could take my own blood, I would be happy to. I let them take from me whenever they want. I don't care. I have no problem getting a needle stuck in me. But to stick a needle in somebody else, that scares the fuck out of me. I hate blood. Take all mine. Well, I got bad news for you. Your body is actually 99% blood. And 1% trace elements. That's the entire composition of the human body. Yeah, they taught us about all this horrible stuff that can go wrong. If you guys want to hear about that and never be happy again, I won't tell you. I will just say, though, that in terms of other people's practicals, I did witness some of it. Some of the stuff that can go horribly wrong. I definitely witnessed a girl who said oops, and with good reason. But, I was just as ready for that to be me. Yeah, I was actually the last one to do it. I stalled. I was scared. I was genuinely very scared of sticking a needle into some poor, helpless old lady and puncturing her vein and possibly collapsing it. And in the end, I didn't. I did fine. But I was the last one to go. I stalled for as long as possible and just kept practicing over and over on the dummies. I stood there and hogged one of the dummies with fake blood, and I just took vial after vial after vial after vial for an hour because I was so scared and I wanted to be 100% sure that nothing was going to go wrong. I was like, throw the fake blood vial away again, fill up another, throw it away again. I was like, I absolutely am not going to stick a needle into somebody's arm and then fuck it up. I am not going until I am certain that this is going to be perfect. And in the end, it was almost perfect. My skin is crawling. Okay. Sorry. Also, I captured all this on the recording, so if you're listening on YouTube, and you want to have annoying conversations with me, join the stream at twitch.tv/NickCastle. And if you don't, then sorry, you can skip ahead next time one of them breaks out. You'll be okay. You have the power of time travel through this video, and we don't, so I don't want to hear any complaints from you. Don't you think you've had enough? I'll tell you what I've had enough. Well, that's the problem, is that if somebody had to tell me that I've had enough, or else I would have just kept going forever. I actually, yesterday when I was practicing, I drained the fake arm of blood. True story. I had to stop because there was none left. In the one that I was using. That was when I stopped for the day yesterday practicing. Okay. So, when we last left off, Tyrone had found Tantavi's obituary. That's my fear. It doesn't happen to people. It happens to dummies. He found Tantavi's obituary, and it motivated him to finally pick up everything and just fucking ditch and run and escape the casino and go anywhere. He's tired of it. That was the last straw for him. I think that was the last thing we covered. I'm gonna probably back up a little bit and reread a paragraph or two because this stupid fucking book doesn't have chapters, and so I never know where I left off for sure. And if you are on the YouTube and you're sick of every time a video ends and a new one starts, you have to hear the same paragraph again, bring it up with Mr. Pynchon, the man who had never heard of chapters before. Don't bring it up with me. Chapters were not invented in the 70s when this was written. Sorry. So I always fucking lose my place. I really should probably just turn the recording off and start over and just start reading. But this one time, I'm going to leave it on. Just so that you know I'm human. So he does make it to Nice after a fast escape down the Cornish, through the mountains, fishtailing and rubber softly screeching at the sun-warmed abysses, tails all shaken back on the beach, where he was thoughtful enough to lend his buddy Claude, the assistant chef, about the same height and build, his own brand-new pseudo-Tahitian bathing trunks. And while they're all watching that Claude find a black Citroën with the keys left in. Nothing to it, folks. Rolling into town in his white zoot, dark glasses, and a flopping Sydney Greenstreet Panama hat. Oh yeah, he's got a zoot suit now because of that guy he ran into who actually seems like he's not part of the conspiracy and could be a real friend. I'm happy for Tyrone, but now I am not comfortable. I have to adjust. He's not exactly inconspicuous among the crowds of military and mamazelles already shifted into summer dresses, but he ditches the car off Place Garibaldi, heads for a bistro on the old nice side of La Porte Fosse, and takes time to nab a roll and coffee before setting out to find the address Waxwing gave him. That's his friend Waxwing who gave him the zoot suit. It turns out to be an ancient 4-story hotel with early drunks lying in the hallways, eyelids like tiny loaves brushed with the last glaze of setting sun, and summertime dust in stately evolutions through the taupe light. Summertime ease to the streets outside. April summertime is the great vortex of redeployment from Europe to Asia, hoots past, leaving many souls each night to cling a bit longer to the tranquilities here. This close to the drain hole of Marseilles, this next to last stop on the paper cyclone that sweeps them back from Germany, down the river valleys, beginning to drag some from Antwerp and the northern parts too, now as the vortex grows more sure, as preferential paths are set up. Just for the knife edge, here in Rue Rossini, there comes to Slothrop the best feeling dusk in a foreign city can bring. Just where the sky's light balances the electric lamplight in the street, just before the first star, some promise of events without cause, surprises, a direction at right angles to every direction life has been able to find up till now. Too impatient to wait for the first star, Slothrop enters the hotel. The carpets are dusty, the place smells of alcohol and bleach. Sailors and girls come ambling through, together and separate, as Slothrop paranoids from door to door, looking for one that might have something to tell him. Radios play in the heavy wood rooms. The stairwell doesn't appear to be plumb, but tilted at some peculiar angle, and the light running down the walls is of only two colors, earth and leaf. Up on the top floor, Slothrop finally spots an old motherly femme de chambre on the way into a room, carrying a change of linen, very white in the gloom. "Why did you leave?" The sad whisper, ringing as if through a telephone receiver from some place far away. "They wanted to help you. They wouldn't have done anything bad." Her hair is rolled up, George Washington style all the way around. She gazes at 45 degrees to Slothrop, a patient, park bench chess player's gaze. Very large, arching, kindly nose and bright eyes. She is starch, sure-boned. The toes of her leather shoes turn up slightly. She's wearing red and white striped socks on enormous feet that give her the look of a helpful critter from one of the other worlds, a sort of elf who'd not only make shoes while you slept, but also sweep up a little, have the pot on when you awoke, and maybe a fresh flower by the window. I beg your pardon?" "There's still time." "You don't understand. They've killed a friend of mine." But seeing it in the Times that way, so public, How could any of that be real? Real enough to convince him Tantivy won't just come popping in the door someday. Howdy, folks, and a bashful smile. Hey, Tantivy, where were you? Where was I, Slothrop? That's a good one. His smile lighting the time again, and the world all free. He flashes Waxwing's card. The old woman breaks into an amazing smile. The 2 teeth left in her head beam under the night's new bulbs. She thumbs him upstairs, and then gives him either the V for victory sign or some spell from distant countryside against the evil eye that sours the milk. Whichever it is, she is chuckling sarcastically. Upstairs is a roof, a kind of penthouse in the middle. 3 young men with Apache sideburns and a young woman packing a braided leather sap are sitting in front of the entrance, smoking a thin cigarette of ambiguous odor. You are lost, mon ami. Well, out with Waxwing's card again. Ah, bien. They roll aside, and he passes into a bickering of canary-yellow Borsellini, cork-soled comic book shoes with enormous round toes, a lot of that saddle stitching in contrasting colors, such as orange on blue, and the perennial favorite, green on magenta. Workaday groans of comforted annoyance commonly heard in public toilets, telephone traffic inside clouds of cigar smoke. Waxwing isn't in, but a colleague interrupts some loud dealing as soon as he sees the card. What do you need? A carte d'identité, passage to Zurich, Switzerland. Tomorrow. Place to sleep? The man hands over a key to one of the rooms downstairs. Do you have any money? Not much. I don't know when I could... Count, squint, riffle. Here. It's alright, it's not a loan. Comes out of overhead. Now, don't go outside, don't get drunk, and stay away from the girls who work here. Aw. See you tomorrow. Back to business. Slothrop's night passes uncomfortably. There is no position he can manage to sleep in for more than 10 minutes. The bugs sally out onto his body in skirmish parties, not uncoordinated with his level of wakefulness. Drunks come to the door. Drunks and revenants. Ron, you've got to let me in. It's Dumpster. Dumpster Villard. What's that? It's really bad tonight. I'm sorry. I shouldn't impose this way. I'm more trouble than I'm worth. Listen, I'm cold. I've been a long way. A sharp knock. Dumpster. No, it's Murray Smile. I was next to you in Basic Company 84, remember? Our serial numbers are only 2 digits apart. I had to let Dumpster in. Where'd he go? Was I asleep? Don't tell them I was here. I just came to tell you, you don't have to go back. Really? Did they say it was all right? It's all right. Yeah, but did they say it was? Silence. Hey, Murray? Silence. The wind is blowing in the ironwork very strong, and down in the street a vegetable crate bounces end over end, wooden, empty, dark. It must be 4 a.m. Gotta get back. Shit, I'm late. No. Only a whisper. But it was her no that stayed with him. Who's that? Jenny? That you, Jenny? Yes, it's me. Oh, love, I'm so glad I found you. But I have to... Would they ever let her live with him at the casino? No, I can't. But what's wrong with her voice? Jenny, I heard your block was hit. Somebody told me the day after New Year's. A rocket. And I meant to go back and see if you're all right, but I just didn't. And then they took me to that casino. It's all right. But not if I didn't. Just don't go back to them. And somewhere, dark fish hiding past angles of refraction in the flow tonight, are Katye and Tantivy, the two visitors he wants most to see. He tries to bend the voices that come to the door, bend them like notes on a harmonica, but it won't work. What he wants lies too deep. Just before dawn, knocking comes very loud, hard as steel. Slothrop has the sense this time to keep quiet. Come on, open up. MPs, open up. American voices, country voices, high-pitched and without mercy. He lies freezing, wondering if the bed springs will give him away. For possibly the first time, he is hearing America as it must sound to a non-American. Later, he will recall what surprised him most was the fanaticism, the reliance not just on flat force, but on the rightness of what they planned to do. He'd been told long ago to expect this sort of thing from Nazis, and especially from Japanese. We were the ones who always played fair, but this pair outside the door were now as demoralizing as a close-up of John Wayne, the angle emphasizing how slanted his eyes are. Funny you never noticed it before. Screaming, "Bonsai!" Wait a minute, Bray, there he goes. Hopper, you asshole, come back here. You'll never get me in a straitjacket again. Hopper's voice goes fading around the corner as the MPs take off in pursuit. It dawns on Slothrop, literally through the yellow-brown window shade, that this is his first day outside, his first free morning. He doesn't have to go back. Free? What's free? He falls asleep at last. A little before noon, a young woman lets herself in with a passkey and leaves him the papers. He is now an English war correspondent named Ian Scuffling. This is the address of one of our people in Zurich. Waxwing wishes you good luck and asks what kept you so long. You mean he wants an answer? He said you'd just have to think about it. Say, it's just occurred to him. Why are all you folks helping me like this? For free and all. Who knows? We have to play the patterns. There must be a pattern you're in right now. But she's already left. Slothrop looks around the place. In the daylight, it's mean and anonymous. Even the roaches must be uncomfortable here. Is he off so quickly, like Katye on her wheel, off on a ratchet of rooms like this, to be in each one only long enough to gather wind or despair enough to move on to the next, but no way backward now, ever again? No time even to get to know the Rue Rossini, which faces Haller from the windows. Where's a good place to eat? What's the name of the song everybody's whistling these premature summer days? A week later, he's in Zurich, after a long passage by train. While the metal creatures in their solitude, days of snug and stable fog, pass the hours at mime, at playing molecules, imitating industrial synthesis as they're broken up, put together, coupled and recoupled, he dozes in and out of a hallucination of Alps, fogs, abysses, tunnels, bone-deep laborings up impossible grades, cowbells in the darkness. In the morning, green banks, smells of wet pasture, always out the windows, an unshaven work crew on the way to repair some stretch of track, long waits in marshalling yards, whose rails run like layers of an onion cut end to end, gray and desolate places, nights of whistles, coupling, crashes, sidings, staring cows on the evening hillsides, army convoys waiting at the crossings as the train puffs by, never a clear sense of nationality anywhere, nor even of belligerent sides, only the war, a single damaged landscape in which neutral Switzerland is a rather stuffy convention, observed but with as much sarcasm as liberated France or totalitarian Germany, fascist Spain, and others. More cowbell. The war has been reconfiguring time and space into its own image. The track runs in different networks now. What appears to be destruction is really the shaping of railroad spaces to other purposes, intentions he can only, riding through it for the first time, begin to feel the leading edges of. He checks into the Hotel Nimbus in an obscure street in the Nederdorf, or cabaret section of Zurich. The room's in an attic and is reached by a ladder. There's also a ladder outside the window, so he reckons it'll be okay. When night comes down, he goes out looking for the local waxwing rep, finds him farther up the Le Marquis, under a bridge, in rooms full of Swiss watches, clocks, and altimeters. He's a Russian named Semyonov. Outside, boats hoot and holler. I let my imagination carry me on that one. Outside, boats hoot on the river and the lake. Somebody upstairs is practicing on a piano, stumbling, sweet leader. Semyonov pours gentian brandy into cups of tea he's just brewed. First thing you have to understand is the way everything here is specialized. If it's watches, you go to one cafe. If it's women, you go to another. Furs are subdivided into sable, ermine, mink, and others. Same with dope, stimulants, depressants, psychomimetics. What is it you're after? Information? Gee, this stuff tastes like Moxie. Oh, another one. Giving Slothrop a sour look. Life was simple before the First War. You wouldn't remember. Drugs, sex, luxury items. Currency in those days was no more than a sideline, and the term industrial espionage was unknown. But I've seen it change. Oh, how it's changed. The German inflation, that should have been my clue right there, zeros strung end to end from here to Berlin. I would have stern talks with myself. Semyonov, it's only a temporary lapse away from reality, a small aberration, nothing to worry about. Act as you always have. Strength of character, good mental health, courage, Semyonov. Soon all will be back to normal. But do you know what? Hold on. But you know what? Let me guess. A tragic sigh. Information. What's wrong with dope and women? Is it any wonder the world's gone insane with information come to be the only real medium of exchange? I thought it was cigarettes. You dream. He brings out a list of Zurich cafes and gathering spots. Under espionage, industrial, Slothrop finds 3. Ultra, Lichtspiel, and Strigeli. They are on both banks of the Lamont and widely spaced. Footwork. Folding the list in an oversized zoot suit pocket. It'll get easier. Someday it'll all be done by machine. Information machines. You are the wave of the future. Begins a period of shuttling among 3 cafes, sitting a few hours over coffee at each one, eating once a day Zurich bologna and Rotsti at the people's kitchens, watching crowds of businessmen in blue suits, sun-black skiers who spent the duration schussing miles of glacier and snow, hearing nothing of campaigns or politics, reading nothing but thermometers and weather vanes, finding their atrocities in avalanches or toppling seracs, their victories in layers of good powder. Ragged foreigners in oil-stained leather jackets and tattered fatigues, South Americans bundled in fur coats and shivering in the clear sunlight, elderly hypochondriacs who were caught out lounging at some spa when the war began and have been here since, women in long black dresses who don't smile, men in soiled overcoats who do, and the mad, down from their fancy asylums on the weekend furlough. Oh, the mental cases of Switzerland. Slothrop is known to them, all right. Among all the somber street faces and colors, only he is wearing white. Shoes, zoot, and hat. White as the cemetery mountains here. He's also the new mark in town. It's difficult for him to sort out the first wave of corporate spies from the loonies on leave. The chorus line is divided not into the conventional boys and girls, but into keepers and nuts, without regard to sex, though all four possibilities are represented on stage. Many are wearing sunglasses with black lenses and white rims, not so much to be fashionable as to suggest snow blindness, the antiseptic white of the clinic, perhaps even the darkness of the mind. But all seems happy, relaxed, informal, no sign of repression, not even a distinction in costume, so that at first there is some problem telling nuts from keepers, as they all burst in from the wings, dancing and singing. Here we come, folks, ready or not. Put your mask on and plot your plot. We're just laughin' and droolin' all over the sleigh, like a bunch of happy midgets on a holiday. Oh, we're the loonies on leave, and we haven't a care. Our brains at the cleaners, our souls at the fair. Just freaks on a furlough away from the blues, as daffy and sharp as the taps on our shoes. Hey, we're passin' the hat for your frowns and your tears, and the fears you thought'd never go away. Oh, take it from a loony, life's so dear and swoony, so hug it and kiss it today. La-da-da, ya ta-ta, and see. They go on, humming the tune behind what follows. First nut, or maybe keeper. Got an amazing deal for you here, American. I thought so. Always tell a face from home, say, like your suit there. Go far enough off the glacier and nobody be able to see you. Well, yes now, I know how you feel about these street vendors. Keep coming by. It's the old 3-card Monty on the sidewalk. Trucks across the stage for a while, back and forth, waving his finger in the air, singing 3-card Monty on the sidewalk, over and over in the same obsessive monotone, for as many repetitions as he can get away with. And you can spot right away what's wrong. Everyone promises you something for nothing, right? Yes, now, oddly enough, that's the main objection engineers and scientists have always had to the idea of, lowering his voice, perpetual motion, or as we like to call it, entropy management. Here's our card. Well, sure, they've got a point. At least they had a point. Up till now. Second nut or keeper. Now, you've heard about the 200-mile-per-gallon carburetor, the razor edge that never gets dull, the eternal boot sole, the mange pill that's good to your glands, engine that'll run on sand, ornithopters, and robo-bobsters. You heard me, got a little goatee made out of steel wool. Jivey, that's fine. But here's the one for your mind. Are you ready? It's Lightning Latch, the door that opens you. Slothrop, I think I'll go take my nap now. Third nut or keeper. Transmogrify common air into diamonds through cataclysmic carbon dioxide reduction. If he were sensitive about such things, it'd all be pretty insulting, this first wave. It passes, gesturing, accusative, pleading. Slothrop manages to stay calm. There is a pause. Then on come the real ones. Slowly at first, but gathering. Synthetic rubber or gasoline, electronic calculators, aniline dyes, acrylics, perfumes, stolen essences in vials and simple cases. Sexual habits of 100 selected board members. Layouts of plants, code books, connections, and payoffs. Ask for it, they can get it. At last, one day at the Stragelli, Slothrop eating on a bratwurst, and hunk of bread he's been toting around all morning in a paper bag, suddenly from no place appears one Mario Schweider in a green frogged waistcoat, just popped out of the echoing cuckoo clock of WW2 here, the endless dark corridors at his back, with a change of luck for Slothrop. Psst, Joe, he begins. Hey, mister. Not me. Slothrop replies with his mouth full. You interested in some LSD? That stands for pounds, shillings, and pence. You got the wrong cafe, Ace. I think I've got the wrong country. Schweider, a little mournful. I'm from Sandaz. Ha! Sandaz! Cries Slothrop, and pulls out a chair for the fella. Turns out Schweider is very tight indeed with Psychochemy AG, being one of those free-floating troubleshooters around the cartel, working for them on a per diem basis and spying on the side. Well, Slothrop says, I'd sure like anything they got on that L Yamf and that Imiplex G. Gah. Pardon me? That stuff, forget it. It's not even our line. You ever try to develop a polymer when there's nothing but indole people around? With our giant parent to the north sending in ultimatums every day? Imiplex G is the company albatross, Yank. They have vice presidents whose only job is to observe the ritual of going out every Sunday to spit on old Yomp's grave. You haven't spent much time with the indole crowd. They're very elitist. They see themselves at the end of a long European dialectic. Generations of blighted grain, ergotism, witches on broomsticks, community orgies, cantons lost up there in the folds of mountain that haven't known an unhallucinated day in the last 500 years. Keepers of a tradition, aristocrats. Wait a minute. Yomph dead. You say Yomp's grave now? It ought to be making more of a difference to him, except that the man was never really alive, so how can he be really up in the mountains toward the Ytterberg? You ever... What? Did you ever meet him? Before my time, but I know there's a lot of data on him in the classified files at Sandoz. It would be some job getting you what you want. 500. 500 what? Swiss francs. Slothrop hasn't got 500 anything unless it's worries. The money from Nice is almost gone. He heads towards Semyon's across the Gemüsebruck, deciding he'll walk everywhere from now on, chewing his white sausage and wondering when he'll see another. First thing you want to do, Semyon advises him, is go to a pawn shop and raise a few francs on that, pointing to the suit. Oh no, not the suit. Semyon goes rummaging in a back room, comes out with a bundle of workman's clothes. You should start thinking more about your visibility. Come back tomorrow, I'll see what else I can find. White Zoot in a bundle under his arm, a less visible Ian Scuffling, goes back outside, down to the medieval afternoon, in the Neyerdorf, stone walls now developing like baking bread in the failing sun. Oh boy, you can see it now. Gonna turn into another of them Tomorrow/Italo drills here. And then it'll be up so deep he'll just never get out. At the entrance to his street, in the Wells of Shadow, he notes a black Rolls parked, motor idling, its glass tinted, an afternoon so dark he can't see inside. Nice car. First one he's seen in a while. Should be no more than a curiosity, except for... Proverbs for Paranoids 4. You hide. They seek. Zing, diddling, diddle-dat-dat-dat, yet-dat-dat-dat. William Tell overture here, back in the shadows. Hope nobody was looking through that one-way glass. Zoom, zoom, dodging around corners, scooting down alleys. No sound of pursuit, but then it's the quietest engine on the road, except for the King Tiger tank. Forget that Hotel Nimbus, he reckons. His feet are already starting to bother him. He goes to the Lussenstrauss and the Hawk Shop just before closing time and manages to raise a little. Baloney for a day or two, maybe, on the Zoot. So long, Zoot. This town sure closes up early. What does Slothrop do tonight for a bed? He has a moment's relapse into optimism, ducks in a restaurant, and rings up the desk at the Hotel Nimbus. Ah, yes. English. Can you possibly tell me if the British chap who's been waiting in the foyer is still there, you know? In a minute, on comes a pleasant, awkward voice with an "Are you there?" Oh, so seraphic. Slothrop funks, hangs up, stands looking at all the people at dinner staring at him. Blew it. Now they know he's onto them. There is the usual chance his paranoia is just out of hand again, but the coincidences are running too close. Besides, he knows the sound of their calculated innocence by now. It's part of their style. Out again in the city. Precision banks, churches, Gothic doorways drilling by. He must avoid the hotel and the 3 cafes now. Right. The permanent Zurichers in early evening blue stroll by. Blue as the city twilight, deepening blue. The spies and dealers have all gone indoors. Semyonin's place is out. The Waxwing Circle have been kind. No point bringing any heat down on them. How much weight do the visitors have in this town? Can Slothrop risk checking into another hotel? Probably not. It's getting cold. A wind is coming in now off the lake. He finds that he has drifted as far as the Odeon, one of the great world cafes, whose specialty is not listed anywhere, indeed has never been pinned down. Lenin, Trotsky, James Joyce, Dr. Einstein all sat out at these tables. Whatever it was they all had in common, whatever they'd come to this vantage to score. Perhaps it had to do with the people somehow, with pedestrian mortality, restless crisscrossing of needs or desperations in one fateful piece of street. Dialectics, matrices, archetypes all need to connect, once in a while, back to some of that proletarian blood, to body odors and senseless screaming across a table, to cheating and last hopes, or else all is dusty Dracularity, the West's ancient curse. Shoutouts to the word Dracularity. I can do some stuff with that. I have use for that word, Dracularity. It's capitalized, too. Slothrop finds he has enough spare change for coffee. He goes, sits inside, choosing a seat that'll face the entrance. 15 minutes, and he's getting the spy sign from a swarthy, curly-headed alien in a green suit a couple tables away, another front-facer. On his table is an old newspaper that appears to be in Spanish. It's open to a particular political cartoon of a line of middle-aged men wearing dresses and wigs, inside the police station where a cop is holding a loaf of white. No, it's a baby, with a label on its diaper says, La Revolucion. Oh, they're all claiming the infant revolution as their own. All these politicians bickering like a bunch of putative mothers, and somehow this cartoon here is supposed to be some kind of a touchstone, this fella in the green suit, who turns out to be an Argentine named Francisco Squaledazzi, is looking for a reaction. The key passage is at the very end of the line, where the great Argentine poet Leopoldo Leganes is saying, "Now I'm going to tell you, in verse, how I conceived her free from the stain of original sin." It is the Uriburu Revolution of 1930. The paper is 15 years old. There's no telling what Squaledozzi is expecting from Slothrop, but what he gets is pure ignorance. This seems to be acceptable, and presently the Argentine has loosened up enough to confide that he and a dozen colleagues, among them the international eccentric Grisella Imago Portales, hijacked an early vintage German U-boat in Mar del Plata a few weeks ago, and have sailed it back across the Atlantic now to seek political asylum in Germany, as soon as the war's over there. You say Germany? You gone goofy? It's a mess there, Jackson. Not nearly the mess we left back home, the sad Argentine replies. Long lines have appeared next to his mouth, lines learned from living next to thousands of horses, watching too many doomed colts and sunsets south of Rivadavia, where the true south begins. It's been a mess since the colonels took over, now with Perón on his way. Our last hope was Action Argentina. What's he talking about? Jesus, I'm hungry. Suppressed it a month after the coup, now everybody waits. Attending the street actions out of habit, no real hope. We decided to move before Perón got another portfolio. War, most likely. He already has the Descomisidos. This will gave him the army too, you see. It's only a matter of time. We could have gone to Uruguay, waited him out, it's a tradition. But perhaps he'll be in for a long time. Montevideo is swarming with failed exiles and failed hopes. Yeah, but Germany, that's the last place you want to go. Paroche no sos argentino. A long look away, down the engineered scars of Swiss avenues, looking for the south, he left. Not the same Argentines, Lothrop, that Bob Barrels seen toast to tangerine raised in every bar across now. Squalidozzi wants to say, we, of all magical precipitates out of Europe's groaning, clouded alembic, we are the thinnest, the most dangerous, the handiest to secular uses. We tried to exterminate our Indians, like you. We wanted the closed, white version of reality we got, but even into the smokiest labyrinths, the furthest stacked density of midday balcony or courtyard and gate, the land has never let us forget. But what he asks aloud is, here, you look hungry. Have you eaten? I was about to go to supper. Would you do me the honor? In the Cronin Hall, they find a table upstairs. The evening rush is tapering off. Sausages and fondue. Slothrop is starving. In the days of the gauchos, my country was a blank piece of paper. The pampas stretched as far as men could imagine, inexhaustible, fenceless. Wherever the gaucho could ride, the place belonged to him. But Buenos Aires sought hegemony over the provinces. All the neuroses about property gathered strength and began to infect the countryside. Fences went up, and the gaucho became less free. It is our national tragedy. We are obsessed with building labyrinths, where before there was open plain and sky. To draw ever more complex patterns on the blank sheet. We cannot abide that openness. It is terror to us. Look at Bourges. Look at the suburbs of Buenos Aires. The tyrant Rosas has been dead a century, but his cult flourishes. Beneath the city streets, the warrants of rooms and corridors, the fences and networks of steel track, the Argentine heart, in its perversity and guilt, longs for a return to that first unscribbled serenity, that anarchic openness of pampas and sky. But barbed wire, Slothrop with his mouth full of that fondue, just gobbling away. That's progress. You can't have open range forever. You can't just stand in the way of progress. Yes, he is actually going to go on for half an hour, quoting Saturday afternoon Western movies dedicated to property, if anything is, at this foreigner who's springing for his meal. Squalidozzi, taking it for mild insanity instead of rudeness, only blinks once or twice. In ordinary times, he wants to explain, the center always wins. Its power grows with time, and that can't be reversed, not by ordinary means. Decentralizing back toward anarchism needs extraordinary times. This war, this incredible war, just for the moment, has wiped out the proliferation of little states that's prevailed in Germany for 1,000 years. Wiped it clean. Opened it. Sure. For how long? It won't last, of course not. But for a few months, perhaps there'll be peace by the autumn. Disyopem, the spring. I still haven't got used to your hemisphere. For a moment of spring, perhaps. Yeah, but what are you going to do? Take over the land and try to hold it? They'll run you right off, partner. No, taking land is building more fences. We want to leave it open. We want it to grow, to change. In the openness of the German zone, our hope is limitless. Then, as if struck on the forehead, a sudden fast glance, not at the door, but up at the ceiling. So is our danger. The U-boat right now is cruising around somewhere off of Spain, staying submerged for much of the day, spending nights on the surface to charge batteries, sneaking in now and then to refuel. Squaledozzi won't go into the fueling arrangements in much detail, but there are apparently connections of many years standing with the Republican underground, a community of grace, a gift of persistence. Squaledozzi is in Zurich now, contracting governments that might be willing, for any number of reasons, to assist his anarchism in exile. He must get a message to Geneva by tomorrow. From there, word is relayed to Spain and the submarine. But there are Peronist agents here in Zurich. He is being watched. He can't risk betraying the contact in Geneva. I can help you out, Slothrop licking off his fingers, but I'm short of cash, and Squaledozzi names the sum that will pay off Mario Schweider and keep Slothrop fed for months to come. Half in front and I'm on the way. The Argentine hands over message, addresses, money, and springs for the check. They arrange to meet in the Cronin Hall in 3 days. Oh god, I'm glad we're almost done. My throat really feels... ugh. Alright, let's finish this up. My throat is really bothering me. Good luck. You too. A last sad look from Squaledozzi, alone at his table. A toss of forelock, a fading of light. The plane is a battered DC-3, chosen for its affinity for moonlight, the kind expression on its windowed face, its darkness inside and outside. He wakes up curled among the cargo, metal darkness, engine vibration through his bones, red light filtering very faint black through a bulkhead from up forward. He crawls to a tiny window and looks out. Alps in the moonlight. Kinda small ones, though, not as spectacular as he figured on. Oh well. He settles back down on a soft Excelsior bed, lighting up one of Squaledozzi's cork tips, thinking, jeepers, not bad. Guys just jump in the airplane, go where they want. Why stop at Geneva? Sure, what about, well, that's Spain. No, wait, they're fascists. South Sea Islands. Full of Japanese and GIs. Well, Africa's the dark continent. Nothing there but natives, elephants, and that Spencer Tracy. There's nowhere to go, Slothrop. Nowhere. The figure is huddled against a crate and shivering. Slothrop squints through the weak red light. It is the well-known frontispiece face of insouciant adventurer Richard Halliburton, but strangely altered. Down both the man's cheeks runs a terrible rash, palimpsested over older pockmarks, in whose symmetry Slothrop, had he a medical eye, could have read drug reaction. Richard Halliburton's jodhpurs are torn and soiled, shouts to Homestar Runner, his bright hair greasy now and hanging. He appears to be weeping silently, bending, a failed angel, over all these second-rate Alps, over all the night skiers, dickhead, far below, out on the slopes, crisscrossing, industriously, purifying and perfecting their fascist ideal of action, 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 once his own shining reason for being. No more. No more. When did I say 3 was? How close are we? Will we get there next week? We might. We might get close. Maybe I'll push through and we'll do it. Hang on, I'm feeling... Oh. Good work, everyone. Sorry that it was not the longest tonight. I dicked around a lot at the beginning, and now towards the end, I really feel like I have to... my throat feels gross, and I'm gonna wrap up, even though there's a little time left. So we'll be back at it next week, and we'll be picking up from page 270.